Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nellie Kennedy, and I'm the MLA for Assiniboia. I'm so happy to be here with you all at the Grace Hospital today. Behalf of the Manitoba government, I want to honor the sacredness and importance of this land and of the ancestors that once walked where we are standing here today. The Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Dene, the Dakota, the Métis, the Inuit, and the Anishinaabe nations have all paved the way to what is now known as Manitoba, home to all treaty people. The reason we share this information with you all is that it is a reminder of our treaty territories and histories and the original homelands of these nations, which have become home to all of us here today. The announcement we are making today is good news for healthcare in Manitoba. Since December, Premier Kinew and Minister Asagwara have been making stops on our healthcare listening tour and hearing from folks on the front lines. What they've heard is that for the last 7 years, the previous government failed to listen to healthcare workers. They failed to fill vacancies, and even worse, their disrespect pushed many people out of our hospitals altogether. Our government has a different approach. We know the path forward for healthcare must be informed by the expertise on the front lines, including right here at the Grace Hospital. Fixing healthcare in Manitoba starts with addressing the staffing crisis, and that's exactly what our team is doing. And so now it's my honor to welcome and introduce to you our Premier, Wab Kinew, to share today's announcement.
Well, we're going to hire 100 new doctors in Manitoba this year. That's the announcement. I think it's really amazing to be back here at the Grace. Minister Asagwara and I were honored to be able to spend some time not too long ago with one of our first stops on the healthcare listening tour. And we heard so much passion, so many solutions being brought forward. But really, if we could draw a common thread and weave a picture out of that, it really came down to the people on the front lines. People who are feeling frustrated or burnt out, people who have amazing passion and ideas for how to improve care. And a lot of the solutions that we've heard from the front lines involve moving the needle for the healthcare professionals, the nurses, the healthcare aides, the clerks, all of the staff who make the hospitals and the healthcare system come to life each and every day. And so our role is to take those ideas away as the minister and myself and the rest of our team, and to find out how can we use the tools of government and the service delivery organizations in healthcare to improve things for those on the front lines, and therefore improve things for you, the patients, right across this great province. And so you'll note that I didn't mention physicians in that list of folks that we talked to, because that's the focus of our announcement today. 100 new doctors. This is an ambitious target. This would be the most net new physicians in a year that our province has ever seen. But Minister Asagwara, MLA Kennedy, the rest of our team, we're an ambitious bunch. And we think that given the knowledge, the passion, the ambition that we've seen from people on the front lines of our healthcare system, we know that that ambition is not only matched, it's exceeded by everybody who's on the front lines of our healthcare system. And so today, we're announcing as part of Budget 2024 that, there's a $309.5 million investment in recruitment and retention initiatives. This is province-wide. It focuses on training new docs, and to do so regionally, importantly setting the stage for Brandon to start playing an active role in the training of new MDs in our province. We also know that recruiting IMGs, international medical grads, is going to be an important part of the solution. But every single time that we visit a facility like this one, every single time that we speak to healthcare professionals and physicians and workers across the province, we always say that the first step, before we even get to training and recruitment and all of these other great new initiatives, it has to be, please, a message to those working on the front lines right now, please stay on the front lines. Help is coming. We're bringing the resources to support you. We're bringing new approaches and a renewed focus on the culture and the working conditions on the front lines. And the first step to us improving always has to be retention. And so we want to move the needle to improve work-life balance, to improve job satisfaction, and to improve the ability for you to be able to say, today on the front lines, I was able to do the job in the way that I wanted to do, that I set out at the start of my career to fulfill. And so that's something that we're deeply, deeply invested in. And so yeah, we have, the specific monetary, financial, staffing, resource targets that we need to hit. But first and foremost, this is about sending a message to those on the front lines and the patients who are depending on you that help is coming, new resources are arriving, and we're working each and every day to make things better with you for Manitoba's healthcare system. So to dive in deeper into some of these details, I want to introduce our Minister of Health, who comes from the front lines themselves, Minister Uzoma Asseguera.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you very much, Premier. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. This is a really exciting announcement. It's a really exciting announcement, and I'm really proud to be able to stand here with so many incredible healthcare experts. Behind the cameras, I see a lot of other healthcare experts in the room. Thank you for joining us today. It means a lot that you took the time to be here. So I'm proud to stand here and share our government's commitment to add 100 doctors to our healthcare system in Manitoba this year. Now, we know that this is an ambitious target. It would represent the most substantial single-year increase in Manitoba's history. To put things in perspective, last year, Manitoba added only 44 doctors to our healthcare system. To achieve this goal, we will work quickly, side by side with the outstanding partners who are here today and others, to focus on recruiting more physicians, retaining existing doctors, and new graduates, and attracting more qualified, internationally educated doctors as well. Now, we all know that Manitoba's population is growing, and we also know that Manitoba's population is aging. We understand the strain that this has had on our healthcare system and the long overdue need for a coordinated, all-hands-on-deck approach, a response that includes a strong partner in government. As a clear indication of our commitment, as the Premier stated, Budget 2024 has dedicated $309 million to do just that, including more funding for doctor recruitment, a 38% increase to medical residency spots, and the establishment of a new recruitment and retention office to steer our efforts moving forward. Recruiting physicians is an intricate process, particularly in a very competitive, I would say increasingly competitive global landscape. By simplifying immigration and licensure processes, along with offering financial supports and doctor-to-doctor referral programs, we will grow our pool of experienced and very diverse doctors who provide the care that Manitobans depend on where and when they need it. We also know that the most impactful recruiters of doctors are their fellow colleagues. And we will have the pleasure, and quite frankly, we've already had the pleasure, which has been fantastic since our government formed government, of working closely and in collaboration with our partners, like Doctors Manitoba, to reduce administrative burden, address burnout, and support new physicians to practice. Our government will also be partnering with the College of Physicians and Surgeons, the College of Family Physicians, the University of Manitoba, and working in consultation with organizations such as the Professional Association of Residents and Interns of Manitoba. And that list doesn't stop there. Those are just some of the partners, some of the leaders and organizations and experts that we will continue to work with and are committed to working with as we move forward. We're going to engage with folks all across Manitoba in rural municipalities to not only recruit physicians, but support them and their families to ensure that they set foot permanently in our beautiful province. So today, we're offering Manitobans a united front, a system-wide commitment from all partners to set ambitious goals and to achieve those goals. Together, we will work to make sure that Manitobans can always find a family doctor, see a specialist, and get emergency care where and when they need it. Thank you so much for joining us all today, and I look forward to sharing more good news on this front as we move forward. Thanks, folks.
Well, thank you, Minister Asaguera. Now I'd like to introduce Dr. Candice Bradshaw from Doctors Manitoba.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Dr. Candice Bradshaw. I'm the board chair and past president of Doctors Manitoba. I'm honored to be here today on behalf of physicians, Doctors Manitoba, and our president, Dr. Mike Boroditsky, who's in the OR all day. Over the last few years, the top concern from physicians has been the physician shortage. This is no surprise, considering Manitoba has one of the biggest physician shortages in Canada. We have amongst the fewest doctors per capita in the country. It would take 445 more physicians to reach the national average. It hasn't always been this way, though. 20 years ago, Manitoba actually had the most doctors per capita. We used to be a leader. But over the last few years, we've thoroughly studied this problem. How did we get here, and what can be done to address it? We held a rural health summit last year in partnership with the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce because access to healthcare is now a top concern for the business community. Last summer, we published our prescription for improving healthcare with recommendations on tackling our physician shortage. We're encouraged when the government adopted our recommendation to meet the Canadian average on doctors per capita within 5 years. We're excited to be here today as Manitoba prepares to take a major leap towards that goal. 100 more doctors by this time next year. That has never happened before in Manitoba. Over the last 5 years, we've averaged a net gain of 60 doctors per year. The biggest increase we've ever had was a decade ago, and that was when we grew by 83 doctors. So this commitment is very significant. It's very ambitious, and it's long overdue. It also begs the question, is it doable? We at Doctors Manitoba believe it is. When you look at our trends over the last 5 years, to get to 100 more doctors over the next 1 year, we need to do two things. First, boost recruitment by 10%. And second, improve retention by 10%. If we can add 10% more doctors than the average and lose 10% fewer doctors than average, we can hit that 100 number. That sounds doable to me, but only with our all-in approach. So it needs all of us. It needs the college, the university, the government, shared health, and the RHAs, and doctors. The best doctor recruiters out there are physicians. Word of mouth and personal recommendations carry a ton of weight. Those connections and collegial bonds help support new doctors as they transition into practice in Manitoba. We hope to see these plans include support and resources for individual doctors in Manitoba, with plans to recruit from abroad and to retain our own graduates. The foundations are in place to support the 100 doctor plan. We have a new physician services agreement, which is bringing in more support and predictable funding to physician practices. A commitment to reduce burnout, support the front lines, and reduce administrative burdens. And funding in this year's budget to boost recruitment and retention initiatives. These provincial initiatives will be complemented by a new program at Doctors Manitoba to support physicians as they transition into practice in Manitoba, whether they graduated here or moved from abroad. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today. Let's get started.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Candice Bradshaw. And now I would like to introduce Dr. Anna Zomik from the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Manitoba.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this. It is indeed an ambitious plan. We have a government that I believe is truly committed to improving access for Manitobans to physicians, and especially family physicians. We have an incredibly difficult problem in Manitoba because of our distribution problem. That needs to be addressed through not only recruitment, which is important, but retention. And retention, I think, is built on relationships and commitments from regions, interdisciplinary teams that need to be strengthened, which we all believe are a way of increasing and improving access. So the fact that our government is working with physicians is wonderful. I think we need to cheer very hard for working with other healthcare professionals also, because the strength of the team is the strength of the healthcare. As physicians, we look to build these teams and hope to increase our presence and extend the kind of work that we're doing. We need to look at new models of care. They're not always physician-based, and in Manitoba, we were quite adventurous a number of years ago when we brought in physician assistant program in Canada. We were the first master's program. Our graduates are extremely successful. We need to work on keeping them here. We have now built an exceptional program, the IMG program through the university, which has been expanded, thanks to government, from 20 to 30 seats. These are physicians internationally trained that we improve their training. We make them aware of the Canadian context, which is very important. If you're looking to keep a physician in Manitoba and keep them happy to stay here, we need to work on integrating the IMGs into the system and to look at ways to make them more comfortable. So the one-year training program, which is the only program of its kind in Canada, and it is the envy of every province in this country, is an exceptional way to make sure that the internationally trained physicians meet the Canadian context and remain comfortable working here. The next piece, of course, that we have to look at is what do we do at the university to keep our residents here? It's wonderful to train residents in 4- and 5-year programs, and then they go away. They go to other places. What is it that's going to keep them here? I think that's a big focus, and it's not always money. It is other things that we can offer as a province, as a healthcare system, that I think Jose is going to help us develop. And again, I would say that we have a government, thank you very much, that really seems committed to all of us working together. So it's physicians, it's Doctors Manitoba, it's PARIM, it's the university, and it's a government that believes that we can do this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zomik. I'd like to now introduce Dr. Karen Appel from the College of Family Physicians.
Hello. Improving access to healthcare requires a system-wide commitment, and the Manitoba College of Family Physicians is dedicated to being a part of the solution. We strive to support every family physician in Manitoba meet their potential, thus supporting Manitobans' access to healthcare. We look forward to advocating on behalf of our newest members, helping them integrate into our healthcare system and helping ensure their voices are heard. We are committed to listening, communicating, and providing feedback on behalf of our members to the different stakeholders, thus working together towards increasing the capacity of our health system. By increasing the number of family physicians working in our province, Manitobans will have better access to the care they need.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Appel. Appel, pardon me. So now I'd like to call on Dr. Jose Francois, who's the Provincial Chief Medical Officer at Shared Health.
Thank you. As the Premier mentioned, this is about people, and we do need this infusion of new physicians to stabilize our system. Although it's an aggressive goal for the upcoming year, it's a necessary one. It will complement a lot of the longer-term strategies that we need to build the workforce that we'll need to serve Manitobans going forward. This is truly a team effort. It's the university and their training programs, it's the regulators, the College of Physicians and Surgeons, it's the health authorities, it's communities, it's physician organizations such as Doctors Manitoba and the Manitoba College of Family Physicians. I think together, get people around the table working together and putting some shoulder to the wheel, we will get there. So although it seems like a big number, it's a very achievable number, and we're pleased to be part of that effort at Shared Health. We have work to do to not only recruit people and get them signed on and privileged and contracted, but as Dr. Joe mentioned, we do need to work at improving our work environments, moving to team-based models, really redesigning services so that we better serve our citizens. So congratulations to the government. We're happy to make this work.
Thanks so much, Dr. Francois. So now I would like to open up the floor for questions.
Question for the minister. Sure. Do you have some specifics on some of the plans? For example, Dr. Manitoba's raised the issue of improving licensing, streamlining that process. What, in terms of concrete steps, is the government doing to make that happen?
Oh, it's a great question. We have been working with the college, we've been working with the University of Manitoba to streamline pathways and to find ways to ensure that, as one example, clinical assistants have better pathways to become physicians, to make sure that we have improved pathways, although it is currently the envy of other parts of the country, to improve pathways for folks to become CAs. And so, our priority is making sure, one, that we're retaining the physicians that we have, which is why we've continued our partnerships, and we are looking forward to future work in regards of reducing physician burden and administrative burden and burnout. But beyond retention and changing the culture in healthcare, there are pathways that we need to streamline here in Manitoba. It makes sense for Manitoba. And so we're working very hard with the University of Manitoba and all of our partners here today to do that work.
Is there a change in place right now or imminent that will improve those pathways?
We're standing up our recruitment and retention office. This is something that's never been done before to ensure that we have dedicated efforts, dedicated leadership that will be focused on working with our partners to develop those pathways, to streamline efforts, and to focus our energy and attention on achieving the 100 doctors and other targets in healthcare.
Where does the 100 doctor target come from? Why not say more?
It's a great question. Everybody here said 100 is already ambitious. You're already pushing us beyond that target. Appreciate that. 100 it's an important number. It sends the message to Manitobans that we take very seriously the need to ensure that they have doctors in their communities. As said previously, last year we only brought on 44. Historically, the most we've done is 83. 100 is an ambitious target, but we believe it is achievable, but it's only achievable if we work together, which is why these partnerships and relationships are crucial. And it's something that we have not seen in our province, certainly in most recent years. I would say that the relationships have been the opposite, right? We have a government now that is committed to having positive, collaborative relationships with experts here in Manitoba. And we believe that 100 number, although it's ambitious, is certainly achievable.
Une question pour Monsieur Kinew.
Oui.
Est-ce qu'il y a des objectifs de médecins en français dans l'arrivée de ces médecins-là?
Oui, certainement. Notre gouvernement est très content d'offrir des appuis pour la francophonie ici dans le Manitoba, et puis ça inclut des services en santé en français. Alors pour nous, faire un investissement comme ça pour ajouter 100 plus de médecins dans la province de Manitoba, ça doit inclure des médecins francophones. Puis on va travailler avec les francophones ici dans la province, mais aussi avec les nouveaux arrivants pour ajouter à la capacité dans notre système. You do speak French, though, right?
Oui.
Alors,
je peux ajouter.
alors le médecin de Shared Health est capable de répondre en français aussi. Alors, je voudrais l'inviter à partager.
Oui, pour ajouter spécifiquement vers les médecins francophones, on va avoir des initiatives au niveau de la retention des médecins francophones qu'on forme en médecine familiale en particulier. Les efforts pour l'évaluation des compétences de médecins formés à l'étranger aussi va avoir une dimension qui utilisera les ressources dans nos communautés francophones. On a toujours inclus dans les plans de recrutement à l'international un montant de 10% envers les médecins francophones ou bilingues.
Ouais, excellent.
Et autre question pour vous, M. Kinew. Vous avez parlé ce matin de vouloir changer la prière à l'Assemblée législative.
Ouais.
Pourquoi pas éliminer notre moment de réflexion personnelle pour l'esprit de laïcité?
Est-ce que tu pourrais répéter la dernière partie de votre question?
Pourquoi ne pas l'éliminer et mettre un moment de réflexion personnelle dans un esprit de laïcité?
Ce que j'ai demandé ce matin est d'engager tout le monde dans notre province pour réimaginer la façon que nous commençons notre journée comme les députés qui vous représentent dans le palais législatif. Il y a beaucoup de monde qui croient dans Dieu, qui croient dans l'Église. Il y a des autres pour qui la question de la laïcité est une des questions les plus importantes dans notre démocratie. Et pour moi, en demandant cette question de comment est-ce qu'on pourrait réimaginer cette partie de notre journée, c'est une question de rassembler tout le monde. Ceux qui croient dans la laïcité, ceux qui croient dans les religions, ceux qui croient dans des autres façon de se réfléchir. Et pour moi, c'est toujours important que votre palais législatif vous représente. Et c'est toujours important de questionner, est-ce que l'évolution de cette institution est quelque chose qui représente d'une bonne façon le mode de vie de tous les Manitobains et Manitobaines, tout le monde qui habite ici. Et je dirais aussi que dans mon discours, j'ai commencé la discussion, j'ai commencé de discuter cette question de la laïcité dans le français. Parce que je suis quelqu'un qui voudrait reconnaître que la question de la laïcité veut dire quelque chose de spécifique dans le contexte francophone. Et ce n'est pas la même chose de juste dire secular society in English. Ce n'est pas quasiment la même chose. Je crois qu'il y a une différente connexion et un différent mode de pensée quand on engage avec ces questions en français. Alors pour nous, oui, c'est une question d'engager avec les communautés religieuses, avec bien beaucoup de monde qui croit dans la laïcité dans notre société, et aussi de le faire dans une façon bilingue, multiculturelle, pour ce qu'on pourrait diriger notre société, notre démocratie dans une façon qui va mieux réfléchir qui nous sommes comme des Manitobains et Manitobaines aujourd'hui. Yeah.
You're trying to make it more representative of Manitobans and less specific to a religion?
Yeah, so just for folks who are wondering what's going on here. No, of course you do. I know you're a francophone yourself, Steve. Earlier today, I was at the multi-faith breakfast. You have leaders from every faith community, every walk of life in Manitoba, and I asked for their help, along with everybody else in Manitoba, to reimagine the opening prayer that we have at the legislature today. I like the fact that we start our day with a chance to reflect and pause and sort of like recommit to the idea of the common good and, the idea that we're one Manitoba trying to work together. But I'm asking faith leaders and people who grapple with the questions of secularism and what does it mean to be a Manitoban today to look at this opening prayer and say, is there a way that we could spend this minute that more accurately reflects who we are as Manitobans today? Is there a way that we could preserve the space for those who believe in God and people such as myself who pray every day, but also to be more inclusive of different faith traditions, but also inclusive of people who prize secularism in our society, people who may define themselves as atheists or non-believers. I just think it's really important for us in safeguarding the project that is our democracy to constantly ensure that there's a good match between the institutions in which we exercise our democratic rights and the way that we live our lives in the broader society. And the point that I was making to our colleague here from one of the journalistic outfits is that given the unique history of Francophones in Canada, I actually think it's really important for this to be a bilingual conversation, if not a multilingual conversation, because I think the term laïcité has a connotation in French-speaking Canada that is slightly different than what secularism means in English-speaking Canada. All that to say that I think it's really, really important for us as Manitobans to use these sorts of conversations as opportunities to dialogue and articulate our shared identity together. There's so many reasons for us to be divided. Let's find some opportunities to engage in these constructive conversations so that we can come together.
There was a Supreme Court decision in 2015 about the use of religious terms in public meetings at the municipal level, but
Yeah.
some groups push for it to be applied to at the provincial level. We have one of the more God-heavy, God-reliant opening prayers in legislatures across the province. Do you foresee the word God being removed from the prayer to make it more inclusive, both for people who are atheists or people who have other faiths?
I think at this stage I wouldn't want to prejudge the conversation. Today we're saying there's an invitation. You can email me directly, premier@ledge.gov.nb.ca if you have some thoughts or you want to put your hand up to participate. The Multi-Faith Council this morning, they said we'd love to be there. Canadian Mennonite University said they'd love to be there. We have experts in secularism at our universities who could tell you, here's the contours of engaging with faith within a pluralistic, multicultural society. I think the bottom line is we have so much Manitoba born and bred insight and wisdom on the questions of meaning in life and faith and secularism and laïcité. I'd like to bring those together and help us just go through an exercise that maybe allows each of us to better articulate what it means to be a Manitoban today. And so, what does the final text of this look like? I wouldn't want to prejudge that, but today we're throwing open the invitation at the behest of the speaker, I would add, to engage with Manitobans about this process of reimagining how we start our day. My personal view is I would like that space for those of us who believe in religion or spirituality to be there. But if we could find a way to articulate in a way that's broader and more inclusive and maybe as a call for reflection for other people who choose to live their lives affixing meaning to the course of their journey in a different fashion, that they feel just as welcome there too.
I was going to ask what prompted this, but was it the speaker?
Yeah, this is the speaker who's a nonpartisan actor. And of course, it being a legislative initiative regarding rules would require the government caucus, opposition caucus, independent members to agree to it. But again, rather than us being 57 MLAs who go away and draft something on our own, I think what we're saying is let's have the conversation as Manitobans. What does faith mean to us today? What's the role of secularism, laïcité? What is pluralism, multiculturalism, freedom? What does freedom on a religious sense, freedom of speech, mean to us today? And do we all agree that it's good for us to take a minute here and there to reset and focus on the greater good before we dive into the debates and question periods that can often be so divisive?
Looking for more specifics on retention. Apart from setting up that office of recruitment and retention, what are you doing now that wasn't being done before to make sure that you're recruiting doctors?
I'll invite Minister Asseguera to dive into a few more details because we've got a ton. But I would want to just take a moment while we're up here to acknowledge we're surrounded by people who have devoted their lives to building an expertise for caring for you. And not only are the folks who come from the different colleges and Doctors Manitoba and the service delivery organizations and the people working on the front lines who are standing around us today, not only have each of them devoted their lives to building up an expertise in patient care, they've then gone on to build a further expertise in system design or professional satisfaction or ensuring that doctors have the professional development tools to reach their full potential. And I just want to say how valuable the minister and I and the rest of our team view your expertise. We want to say that publicly, to say that we're grateful for this, to be surrounded by people who have such a deep insight into what is needed to fix our healthcare system. And by way of answering your question, I would also in a very humble way suggest to everybody here and everybody listening at home that what our government wants to do differently is we want to have a solutions-focused culture. If you have a physician in town who is trained, a young doc in Winnipeg who is trained in Poland and can't work right now, if you have a Manitoba-raised student who is close to finishing their med school in Ireland and wants to come back here, if you have an IMG who's been recruited by a local community in the Westman, and they got everything lined up, but the credentials aren't recognized yet. Until now, I think the approach too often in government and in other sectors was, no, you don't meet the criteria, we're going to move on. What I'd very humbly ask us all to be able to collaborate on together is, can the solutions-focused culture from here on in be, it's not quite there yet, but let's have a conversation about how we can get you over the line. Or, you know what? I can't do this myself, but I know which other aspect of the licensing, educational, government, service delivery spectrum is going to be the one to be able to move things in the right direction. So we're going to stand up a bunch of new recruiting, retention, healthcare improvement initiatives, even investments like the minor injury and illness clinics, the new approaches to primary care, team-based care. We make investments there in a way that is going to improve the options for you, the patient, but I know are also going to be good retention and recruitment tools themselves. Because we're going to be able to say to a doc, yeah, if you choose to work in Carberry or Melita or Roblin, you're also going to have the ability to pick up shifts at a minor injury clinic in Brandon, right? So we're doing all those things because each and every one of them makes sense, and when you put the entirety of them together as a whole, it's going to allow us to move a system-wide conversation together more quickly. But I really do hope that we're able to build on the tone of collaboration that I heard from everyone here today and the optimism that I'm hearing a bit more of from across the healthcare system more recently, that we can really instill that solutions-focused culture. So instead of a no and move on, that we get to more of those, all right, let's work together and see how we can get things moving in a more constructive direction in the future. And I say that with the greatest of humility. So here's my colleague.
Thank you. Thank you, Premier. I mean, the Premier really did cover it really, really well. What I would add is that, you know, in about the 6 months that I've been in this role, and the Premier, you know, afforded me the privilege of serving in this role, I've had the opportunity to visit folks on the front lines, to go to different hospitals, communities, et cetera. And something that I have consistently heard, even with visiting folks in my own Department of Health, is that they had never received a visit from the Minister of Health in years and years prior. That it was the first time in, you know, a civil servant's 20-year career, 10-year career, the last 5 years, some folks who were newer to the civil service, that they had seen a minister show up to say hello and to listen to them. And that goes for, you know, various hospitals, emergency departments, et cetera. And so I think we can't overstate the value and the importance of listening to healthcare workers, valuing their expertise, showing up for them when they say they need to have a conversation and they want to bring their ideas forward. And I say that myself as someone who worked as a nurse on the front lines for years, that knowing your voice is heard and your expertise is valued can be the difference maker in how you show up to work every day, knowing that you are really a part of the solution. So that's really the additional piece that I would add. And I really do look forward to more announcements, more work, and more collaboration that our government will be doing moving forward. to as many family physicians as we can recruit, absolutely. Right now what we're doing is looking at the needs in the system, and that's part of what the Recruitment and Retention Office's role will be, is to work with our partners, to work with these experts who are here today and folks on the front lines to identify the areas and set specific targets beyond the 100 number. But certainly family physicians is a top priority. We know that that's a big gap in Manitoba that Manitobans are facing, but certainly across the board, we want to make sure we're recruiting physicians, doctors of all specialties.
And we know there's challenges in retaining physicians in rural areas. What kind of incentives would it be for those?
I would say that working with Doctors Manitoba, working with regional health authorities is going to be key. Maximizing the physician services agreement is big, but also making sure, as already mentioned previously, that we're talking about the culture in healthcare. When I've been out in rural communities and met with doctors and met with municipalities and leaders, community advocates who are advocating for investments in their neighborhoods in terms of healthcare, one thing that I've heard loud and clear is that retaining people in rural communities really is about relationships. Yes, monetary incentives. Yes, what does the hospital look like? Modernization of sites makes a difference. But what people are looking for is connection. They're looking for a community where they know their kids are going to have access to good education, where they know that their neighbors are going to be welcoming and affirming. And the great thing about this opportunity that we have to achieve this ambitious target is that it allows for us to work with municipalities, work with rural communities to determine the best approach for those communities versus handing down an approach or decisions in terms of how do you retain and recruit folks to rural communities. We've already been having great conversations in that regard, and the Recruitment and Retention Office that we are standing up is going to be leading a lot of that work. And sorry, I should note, just noted here, the Rural Doctor Recruitment and Retention Fund, which is, to me, it's such an obvious benefit that we have here in Manitoba, was cut under the previous government, has been restored, and we're utilizing the Recruitment and Retention Fund that is specific to rural Manitoba to meet the needs of rural Manitobans and physicians.
There's 30 seats in the IMG program. About how many of those graduates leave versus stay in Manitoba?
Oh, it's a great question. I'm not sure if Dr. Francois has a sense. We can get you some data on that. We're working with the University of Manitoba to improve our retention rates. And so as stated previously, if we can, by 10%, if we can reduce the folks who are leaving, improve the rates of folks who are coming to Manitoba, we're going to see some big improvements. But again, that's something that we have in Manitoba that is quite unique, and maximizing that opportunity is important.
Will you increase those spots?
Sorry?
Will you increase those spots?
We are actively looking at all options in terms of making sure we're training more folks and getting more opportunities to people to improve those residency positions and beyond that. The other thing that we're doing a lot of work around is ensuring that we have preceptors, right? Ensuring that we have doctors who can mentor other doctors to be successful in communities, rurally, northern, and across the system. That's a big part of this conversation, and the work to develop that even greater is already underway.
What's the provincial investment into the rural physicians recruitment?
$2 million. I think we're going to go to Zoom now.
Thank you, Minister. We have one reporter on the line with us today, and we'll follow our usual one question, one follow-up. I'll turn it over to the Brandon Sun, Michelle.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking my question. How will it be decided how many doctors will go where, as in the 5 health regions in the province? And specifically, I'm asking about here in Prairie Mountain Health in rural Manitoba.
Great question. Thank you, Michelle. I love that you're advocating for your community. We are working actively with regional health authorities. We are working with our partners in terms of addressing the needs that are very specific to each region. And so ultimately, the relationships that we've been building have really allowed for us to get a better look at what the needs are, for every region, and as far down to as every site. And so we are going to be, as we move forward, working through the Recruitment and Retention Office to really drill down on what the numbers need to be. We already have a sense of what some of those numbers look like based on existing vacancies that we are actively working to address. But this goal, this target of 100 net new doctors is going to, obviously it seems like a broad goal, but it is going to be specific in terms of actively making sure we're recruiting to meet the needs of communities that are really struggling and have been struggling historically without any investments made by the previous government.
Alrighty, and my follow-up, any idea how that 309.5 million will be allocated? Certain percent to recruitment, certain percent to retaining, et cetera? What's the breakdown, do you know?
That's a great question. Certainly over the coming weeks and months, folks will start getting a sense of those details as we make more announcements with our partners across the healthcare system. And so I don't want to overshare some of those details because there's a lot of good news that is coming in terms of our plan overall. But certainly there'll be more details coming soon to specific initiatives that we'd be happy to share.
Thanks, Minister. That's all from Zoom. Back to you.
Okay. Overnight physician position, or? That's a good question. We have been working with the Grace to improve their capacity in terms of physician care. I know that there was some news about that earlier in the week, and I can tell you that we've been listening to the physicians here at the Grace who have been identifying their concerns, and we've been working with them to make sure that they have the resources fiscally in order to staff up those physician roles. Is this a healthcare question, or? Yeah. Sure.
Can you explain more how for international doctors probably it's easier for them to get their credentials recognized?
Great question. We are actively working with the college and the University of Manitoba to develop faster pathways, streamlined pathways, to understand where the barriers are in the process that have not been allowing for physicians to get credentialed in a timely manner. The Premier really said it well. When physicians go through the process, or people who want to work and practice in Manitoba go through the process, and historically they were met with a no explanation as to why they weren't accredited, no clear indication as to what the path forward can be, that really does a disservice to Manitoba being able to retain that interest in joining our healthcare team as a doctor. And so we are, and it's part of the culture change in healthcare, it's part of relationship building. We are working with the university, with the college, with folks across the board to make sure that when a doctor says they want to work and practice in Manitoba, that we are creating pathways and streamlining pathways that make it easier for them to do so, make it easy for them to understand. But also if there's a little bit of a bump in that journey, that we're not telling them no, that we're saying to them, all right, a little bit of a hiccup right now, but we're going to get you there. We're going to make sure you can join our healthcare team in Manitoba, and we're going to work with you and support you to get you that place.
I have a question for Dr. Bradshaw. Sure. We've heard a lot about why doctors are leaving, but last year, I don't know if it was you, that 44 overall net doctors stayed in the province. What motivated them to stay?
I would hope Doctors Manitoba and, showing them that we're working hard to come up with new compensation models. For example, because I'm a family doctor and I can tell you right now, we have completely put the way family physicians are working and being paid through the ringer in all good ways. So we have this new model called Family Medicine Plus, and it's just kind of been rolling out gradually over the last few months, but especially in the last few weeks. And I can tell you it's the talk of the country when it comes to family doctors right now. I've done more than one presentation to another province explaining what's happened because people are asking. They're hearing good things. We're able to spend more time with our patients now because of our new funding model, our new contract. We're able to keep our clinics open. We can get compensated for owning and running a clinic. So things like this, it's just overall having a government that is interested in working with us, improving life on the front lines, and interested in improving the culture. These things get translated by us as physicians to our colleagues, whether they're in Manitoba or outside of Manitoba, that good things are happening, and I think that message has now been spread loud and clear.
I can say that our government has been working super hard on the overall situation related to the Imperial Pipeline repair. I can tell you that where we stand today, there's more gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel in Winnipeg and region than there was at the start of this period. So we're, without trying to say that we're at all close to the finish line in this, because the pipeline repairs still have a significant amount of work ahead of them, that we are feeling like the supply situation is in a good situation. We have the lowest gas prices in the country, and the spread between Saskatchewan and us and Ontario and Alberta is consistent with what you saw at the start of the year when we cut the provincial fuel tax to zero. Given the current situation and all the media reporting about gas stations and stuff like that, we decided to extend the fuel tax holiday for an extra 3 months, just to help the average working person out there keep a little bit more money in your pockets. So things are progressing. There are a lot of detailed projects being managed right now in relation to this. I myself have had the opportunity to visit the pipeline terminal at Gretna, which became the source for a lot of truck traffic into the city, bringing sources of fuel. Our team has been at the St. Adolphe site. I'm planning to visit there once the pipeline drilling begins in earnest. And of course, we've been working with the supplier partners, the fuel network here in Winnipeg, the federal government, the North Dakota government, and our rail partners as well, to ensure that we have an adequate supply, that the environmental standards are being maintained, and that safety is also being kept top of mind throughout this. So it's been a big learning experience for me. If you would have told me at the outset that within the first 6 months we'd be drilling a pipeline in southern Manitoba, I probably would have been surprised that that's what the cards held for our administration. But given the importance of gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel to the provincial economy, to facilities like this one for backup power supply, for really the entire way of life as it's currently constructed in Manitoba, we've taken this project super seriously. We really respect the level of engagement that we've gotten from all of our partners, and we continue to move forward on this with a ton of attention being paid to the economic and price implications of what's happening, but also the environmental and safety pieces as well.
As far as you know, are the repairs still on track to be completed for that time?
Yeah, the timeline is moving ahead according to what we've laid out initially. We'll provide updates if there's any changes. I think we are planning to put out, we do one of these deeper dive bulletins every so often. I believe we're planning to put out the next bulletin tomorrow with the information that I've just shared with you, and probably a few more technical details as well. Yeah.
Question for the Premier. ANC is asking the province to rethink the budgetary cuts to emergency preparedness funding. Manitoba last year lower wildfire impact than a lot of places in the country, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, there's no cuts, first of all. I would, anytime that these sort of conversations come up, I really encourage people to look at the historic trend line. What has been spent on wildfire resources in the past in this specific case. And so the number that the professionals that we work with in this space recommended for this year is the number that you see in the budget, and it's on par with what you see as the historic trend. Now, wildfire season, because of the weather, because of the winter, is something that's been top of mind for our administration, and so we're going to work with everybody, including Indigenous governments and Indigenous organizations like the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, to ensure safety and also protection for the environment. But I also think it's really important for us to do the legwork ahead of time, and that's something that we're committed to here, absolutely. The government also has in this new budget laid out a bunch of new fire safety initiatives which have never existed in Manitoba before. And when we bring it back to the health area, one of the goals that we really are invested in as an administration is bending the curve when it comes to child and infant mortality in Manitoba. Put simply, we want more young people in Manitoba to thrive to see their 18th birthday. And there's a whole bunch of initiatives that are baked into Budget 2024 to move the needle in those areas, including doubling the prenatal benefit, which increased birth weight in Manitoba when it was first introduced, around injury prevention, around an anti-suicide strategy province-wide with a specific focus on Indigenous youth and Two-Spirit people in Manitoba. But there's also the fire safety initiatives, a program to put a smoke detector in every house in the province, including on reserve. Investments in firefighting equipment in all regions, including in northern Manitoba. And then, of course, we have our ongoing training and upkeep that we need to invest in for the firefighters themselves who are going to respond once wildfire season emerges. Again, hopefully, we won't see the impacts, but we also have to prepare for the situation in which we will. And so there's also a component where we have to engage with the federal government as well. The Disaster Financial Assistance Program is something that we're going to have to rely on in the future, whether it's for wildfire or flood season. And I think there were some really important lessons learned over the past few years about interprovincial and interterritorial collaboration. And so we're always talking to the other premiers of the provinces and territories to just have a really good, strong working relationship so that when those challenges do confront us in the future, we're going to be able to help out our friends, and should the need ever arise, we'll be able to call on them for assistance too. Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Thanks, folks.
Right on.
Thank you so much.